Hi, I'm Mark Duxbury. Softly is a weekly reading. Today, Abbey Lane. It sat there, a patient small animal at rest, every bit of it saturated with the waiting. Just parked, as cars do, and yet so there, so totally in the moment, ordinary, made immense briefly by the way the light hit the roof. A late October sun cast its diagonal lines along the road, and the car's silver roof captured it, a shining pane in the pale light, flaring at the edges where the metal caught the sun. Behind it, Abbey Lane stretched on, empty and damp, bordered by small, tidy hedges that looked trim even in their wildness. This car, waiting here right in the middle of it all, as if asking for someone to walk up and peer through the windows to see what could be waiting inside. Maybe a scattering of lost pennies on the passenger seat, a coffee cup tipped on its side, the remnants of someone's Tuesday morning. The car was empty now, as if all it needed was the long afternoon, the yellowing light, and the subtle throb of the street around it. Here I am, belonging to this little forgotten stretch of Abbey Lane. A leaf blew across the windshield, scraping just softly before the wind lifted it off, sending it spinning down the lane. The car didn't flinch. It sat there, solemn, almost reverent, displaying the kind of patience people lose somewhere in the rush to get somewhere. Designed to move, to hurtle forward, yet here it was, perfectly still, giving itself over to the waiting. A little further down Abbey Lane, a cat slipped out from behind a fence, padded quietly along the pavement, and darted under another parked car. Abbey Lane inched forward under the afternoon light, ticking the seconds towards evening. The car, a small hatchback, maybe, or grey, seemed to shift colour with each glancing beam, blending it into the time of day, into the waiting embedded in every corner of the lane. Abbey Lane itself was empty otherwise, with just the faint sounds of children playing somewhere in the distance, their laughter muffled by hedges and trees. Summer clinging to the last warmth of October. There was a smell, too, of something smoky, woody, tinged with damp earth rising up from the mossy cracks in the pavement and the old stone walls that line the lane. The car seemed to know something no one else did, that in this moment, with the world turning slowly into evening, there was a kind of wholeness to the waiting. Its scratched fender and rain-spotted hood was part of it, part of the stillness that had fallen over Abbey Lane, making it seem as if it were the only road in the world. Abbey Lane's corners were softened by the low light of dusk. The whole lane became a bruise of blue and purple with that strange sort of grey that descends at the close of October days. An old street lamp stood in the corner, throwing a puddle of yellow light that barely reached the car, a faint beam tracing the shape of the wheel arch, the rain-streaked windows. Abbey Lane suddenly felt empty and full all at once, for all the ordinary details, bits of gravel, a stray newspaper lodged in a drain, the fine dust of ages-old dirt settled on the leaves. There was a presence, something knowing, that hung over it. This still, silent car had lived here, if only for a day, if only for an hour. It had been part of Abbey Lane, caught in its ordinary marvel. The car had seemed somehow to understand its role, to settle in place. A stone among other stones, like the moss and the leaning lamppost, it took on a kind of grace in this quiet evening. Then, just as unceremoniously, it moved. A click of the lock, a figure crossing the lane, a man, a woman, who knows, climbed into the driver's seat. The engine turned over, low and rumbling, shattering the spell, rippling air that dispersed the quiet, scattering it back into all corners. Headlights flicked on sharply against the softening dark, and the car pulled away, slipping off down the lane until only the hum of its engine remained. Then nothing. Abbey Lane became itself, dark, narrow, and quiet. It was as if it had been waiting for this moment all along.